If I could ask Kamala Harris a question, I'd ask her, why can't you answer questions? Why can't you have 2 minutes with a press person the way I am right now? And why don't you exercise your freedom of speech? I'd like to hear what you have to say, Kamala.
I guess, Ms. Harris, why should I believe you?
My question to her is, what does she plan to do for the African American community? We understand that, her running for office as a black female is really important, but what is she going to do to actually help us?
Tell me what you've done for this country and what makes you think you are qualified to lead the United States of America.
Why haven't you gone to the border yet?
What's going to be her first priority, and how will we know she's achieved it?
What do you hope to change when you had so little time to really address the people and put your stand and your viewpoint out there? We know you as the vice president, but what could we expect from Kamala as the president?
The question for the Harris Walls campaign, I think I'm doing a lot already to help, but if there's more that I could do, I would like to know what that is.
What's so funny, Kamala? The country's a mess.
Those are swing state voters proving that the Democrats' stealth campaign, their attempt at getting the first media mute elected to office, is indeed backfiring. They have no idea what her policies are. And now we're even seeing the top pollsters predicting that Kamala's campaign is in fact crashing and burning. All the while Trump is surging, particularly in those key swing states. We've got the latest. Plus, we got another huge loss for the deranged prosecutor, Jack Smith. The guy literally keeps stepping on the rake. You remember good old Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons? It's now officially Sideshow Jack. The guy simply won't stop repeating the same foolishness over and over and over again. Now the DC judge has finally put an end to it. Plus, Steven Crowder exposes in a hidden camera one of Alvin Bragg's associates admitting that the whole New York case against President Trump, it was a complete and total political sham. Gang, the whole thing is coming crashing down. You're going to absolutely love this. Greetings, everyone. It is Livestream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane times. So make sure, whatever you do, smack that bell and subscribe button. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, you name it. If you're on Rumble, why don't you go on over to YouTube and subscribe there? If you're on YouTube, go on over to our channel on Rumble and subscribe there. Share this video far and wide. We need these videos to get into the hands of as many people as possible over the next 60 days. We have got a jam-packed show for you today, and we're going to dive right in. Just a quick programming note. You do not want to miss next Monday night's live stream. I've got some very exciting news to share about a big in-person event that you don't want to miss coming up before the election. You're going to love it. So make sure to tune in on Monday night's live stream. And of course, as always, just as a reminder, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, we've been completely demonetized by YouTube. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Join any one of the levels of support that you see there, and you'll have instant access to our very own virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them right here on this live stream. So just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Join any level of support that you like, and you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them right here on this live stream for all the world to hear. A few short months ago, the legacy media was literally begging a certain vice president to resign. Take, for example, this headline you're seeing there from the Washington Post. That was dated March 15th, yes, of this year. The left-wing activists disguised as journalists over at the Washington Post were starting to panic over Biden's plummeting poll numbers. And they were blaming Kamala. Kamala was the reason Biden was plummeting. Or, at the very least, she certainly wasn't helping an already severely damaged ticket. She had no real experience. Nobody liked her. Her approval ratings they tanked into the 20s, the lowest of any sitting vice president in the history of modern polling. She had a 90% staff turnover because she's a nightmare to work for. She dropped out of the Democrat primaries in 2020 before even the first caucus of Iowa because she was only getting about 1% support. She can't debate. She can't speak without that ridiculous cackle that even world leaders like Putin are mocking. I mean, for heaven's sake, for the good of the nation, please, 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 Kamala, please, we're begging you. Drop out. And then suddenly, as if light shone from the sky through the clouds, seemingly out of nowhere, the legacy media had a born-again experience. They had an epiphany. They collectively experienced a mystical vision. And they heard a voice from above. Kamala was really, in truth, humanity's highest hope. She was, in truth, the single most extraordinary creature in all of God's creation. She was, in truth, the answer to all we've been looking for. And as it turns out, she's actually the single most popular person on the planet. She's the most liked. She's the most revered. She's the most praiseworthy among the whole of humanity. She wasn't dragging down that ticket. No. As it turns out, that ticket was dragging down her. Now, free, she can rise. She can shine for all the world to see a new era of hope and change, a new era of promise and a path forward to a bright and everlasting future. Sorry. Now, why this change of heart? Why this sudden about face among the legacy media? Was it because of her soaring oratory? Did she deliver a particularly historic speech that sent a thrill up the collective legs of the mainstream media? Is it her bold, fresh, and far-reaching policy proposals, both foreign and domestic? What precisely precipitated this born-again experience among every single member of the legacy media? There really is, in the end, only one possible answer.
Warm, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Welcome to the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
that is the real reason the legacy media had their epiphany. They are scared to death of the return of that man. In other words, this joy, 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 joy campaign of Kamala is actually rooted in fear and trepidation. They're scared to death that Trump is coming back, and he's coming back to exact revenge on them. That, of course, would mean that none of this is real. That alone, that one realization alone means none of this is real. None of it. The collective legacy media still believes Kamala is incompetent. They're under no illusions. They know nobody likes her. They know she is deeply unpopular. They know she has no qualifications, that she's a disaster of a person. But it doesn't matter because they're stuck with her. She's all they got. Somehow, some way, she convinced the powers that be to give her the nomination. And so the media, being the amplification of the powers that be, they're stuck. And so the same media that tried to tell us that Trump colluded with Russia to steal the 2016 election, the same media that told us that Jussie Smollett was the victim of a race crime in downtown Chicago, the same media that told us that Brett Kavanaugh was a serial rapist, that the COVID lab leak theory was nothing but a conspiracy theory, that border agents on horseback ran around whipping migrants, that the Covington Catholic school kids mocked and ridiculed and maligned a poor, peaceful Native American simply banging on his drum, that Trump personally built cages for migrant kids and laughed when they were separated from their families, and that recommended that people drink bleach to cure COVID, and that Kyle Rittenhouse was a white supremacist, and of course the granddaddy of them all, that the Hunter Biden laptop was nothing more than Russian disinformation. Yeah, that legacy media is now telling us that Kamala Harris, Kamala freaking Harris, is the answer to all our prayers. But unfortunately for both the media and Kamala, the jig appears to be up. No one is buying it. Literally no. Well, no one who isn't already drinking the blue Kool-Aid. The real data analysts out there are all saying the same thing. They're all seeing it. Kamala's campaign is absolutely collapsing. Her polling is plunging back to Joe Biden levels. The very polls that were freaking out the Democrats originally and their mouthpieces in the legacy media, that they were flipping out that Biden was going to lose this. We need to put somebody else in there, anybody else in there, and that'll save us, especially after a 24/7 glitz and glam charade. That very same legacy media is now seeing those very same polls return. And they're returning with a vengeance, and that wasn't supposed to happen. Remember, the whole theory here is you just switch Joe out with somebody else, anybody else, and we'll be fine because we got the media behind us, the 24/7 glitz and glamour, all the propaganda. We'll be fine. But it's not working. The polls are going back to Biden levels. Here's our dear friend, Rich Barris of the People's Pundit, the single best polling analyst I know out there. Here he is just on Benny Johnson's show the other day, explaining how the polls are all returning to Biden levels.
That Kamala could do better in national polling and even in the national vote than Biden was gearing up to do, because there are just certain really deep blue areas where she's going to You know, it's not a core walking corpse anymore. So they're going to get off their couch and they're going to vote, or they're going to mail in a ballot. However, that still will not help her with the voters that Biden was suffering with in like the northern Midwest and the Sun Belt states. You know, they thought when they got in this race that their path would be through the Sun Belt, and then plucking off, of course, what they thought at the time. Pennsylvania would be the easiest, but they even know in their own polling, she's down in Pennsylvania. And I'm going to blow the lid off of it. I mean, if I'm wrong, Kamala, you can release your poll right now and you can put it out on Twitter and show everybody that you're up in your polling, but you know that's not the case, so you can't do that, right? So you would drop it and it would say what? Trump plus almost 2, right? Because just saw it. So anyway, you know, basically I'm telling you, they know this. And, you know, there's like an environment that was giving her, it's like a high, you know, and the response bias bloated her numbers. And when this dust settles, I mean, she could have a great debate performance, Benny, but the truth is debates don't really have a tremendous impact. There are 2 that will be added to the history books where they did. One was Ronald Reagan, of course, in his single debate against Jimmy Carter. And that's something like people like me and psephologists talk about all the time. But the other one is going to be Joe Biden. You know, just having a complete mental breakdown on TV because it was an emperor has no clothes moment. Look at the interview she did with Dana, whatever, Bash from CNN. If they taped almost an hour worth of footage, you're in this business. If they taped almost an hour worth of footage, all right, and they're only going to release 30 something minutes, and those 30 something minutes are awful because they are. They and Democrats really felt like in order to stop what I'm saying from happening in a couple of weeks, she needed a knockout CNN interview. She didn't put it up. How bad is the rest of that interview if that's the section we got, Benny? You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that for a second. How bad is it?
Release the tapes.
Release
the tapes. Yeah.
So that makes my confidence level a lot less that she's going to go out there and knock this out of the park when it comes to the debate. She would need something. Even Biden was considered to have done significantly better, but what happened in the post-Labor Day environment? Trump just kept closing and closing. He's a very strong closer. I mean, yes, past his prologue, but it doesn't necessarily it doesn't guarantee that, you know, past will be prologue. But damn, I mean, if you're the Democratic nominee, do you not want to be 10 points ahead of Donald Trump right now? You know how this goes. You know how this closes. By mid-September, your lead is fading. By October, you got your push polls and your Biden plus 17s that are trying to still give people something to snort up their nose, right, to keep them going another couple of weeks. But it doesn't happen. And then come Election Day, this huge swarm of people will come to the polls, crawling across broken glass. They'll walk over the hot lava just to get to the damn voting booth to vote for this guy. So, yeah, that's what I'm telling you is going to happen in a couple weeks. Mark my words.
I love it. Release the tapes. Release the tape. I love it. That's great. Now, what Rich is getting at there is that Trump consistently overperforms his polling by upwards of 5 to 7 points. This isn't a point or two. He consistently overperforms his polling by 5 to 7 points. Take whatever poll you want. Doesn't matter. ABC, Morning Consult, Quinnipiac, CNN, Fox. It doesn't matter. Take whatever poll you want, and you will find that Trump consistently overperforms the poll by 5 to 7 points come Election Day. You can see it in the RCP average polling. So this is the averaging out of all the polls that were taken, the good, the bad, and the ugly, taken over the course of the election. So back in 2020, Biden was supposed to win the popular vote by 7.2 points. He ended up winning, right, quote unquote, by 4.5 points. So that's a near 3-point overperformance on Trump's part. And again, that's with all the polls average out. But if you look down, you look at The Economist, it gave Biden a 10-point lead the day before the election. CNBC gave him a 10-point lead. Quinnipiac, which is just a farce of polling outfit at this point, but they gave Biden an 11-point lead. So you could see how Trump overperforms by 5 to 7 points. It was comparable in 2016 with Hillary. Remember, the New York Times gave Hillary an 85% chance of winning the presidency. And again, it's because, well, frankly, they're just more about propaganda than news. They completely and deliberately ignored the low propensity voters in counties all across the nation, most particularly in swing states, that Trump's campaign has awakened and energized. And as Rich said, they will literally crawl over glass just to vote for Trump. They did in 2016. They did in 2020. Did not come out in 2022 because Trump was not on the ballot, but they are ready to come out like never before in 2024. So basically what Rich is saying there is whatever bump Kamala had over the last few weeks, you would have to knock off something like 5 or 7 points for the response bias that we saw over the last few weeks, where the media was pushing polls that had like 60% Democrat response and things like that. So it's the response bias. You got to knock about 5 or 7 points off of Kamala. But at the same time, you got to add 5 or 7 points to Trump's, and whatever poll you're looking at, to Trump's, and on account of Trump's consistent overperformance on election day. And you do that, and then all of a sudden, what are you left with? You're left with the same polling you had before Biden dropped out. The Democrats are literally walking in circles. And we can already see it. I mean, the latest ABC Ipsos poll found that Trump beats Kamala significantly with every single major issue of concern for voters. I mean, look at that. That's crazy. He beats her on the economy. He beats her on inflation. He beats her on immigration. He beats her on the war in the Middle East. She's stuck in the 30s. And by the way, she's always been stuck there in the 30s. That's why she's never come close to winning a national race. And so obviously this doesn't bode well for how these polls are going to end up aligning in the coming weeks as we move into October. Voters are going to naturally align with the candidate they most trust with these most important issues. And so it's no coincidence that we're now seeing the forecast models all beginning to swing to Trump. Wait until you see the latest on this, gang. It's going to make your weekend. But first, if you are just joining us, remember, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on that link below. Join any one of our levels of support, and you have access to our very own virtual platform. You can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Just click on that link below, or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Also, gang, as you know, the left really is absolutely insane, and nothing has shown that insanity more than this election cycle. I mean, every day, the values that built this great country are under attack by the dolts in D.C., and I know how frustrating that can be. But let me tell you, gang, you are not powerless. You've got the passion and the know-how. You've got the tools to fight back. And I'm thrilled to introduce you to the Patriot Professor's Courageous Conservative Club, because this is going to hone in those tools. This is where you'll transform into the advocate our movement needs. Together with Micah Cochran, we've created the Liberals Indoctrination Vaccination Kit, giving you the strategies to stand firm and debunk the myths the left is pushing. But we're not stopping there. Our course on winning the next generation is all about connecting with Gen Z and influencing the future of our nation. Plus, you'll get our Uncensored Conservatives Action Plan guide to put your knowledge into action right in your community. And to top it all off, you'll get exclusive access to bonus workshops with some of the best conservative minds out there. This whole package is actually worth over $3,000, but it's yours for free when you join the Courageous Conservatives Club as a premium member. So what are you waiting for? Click on that link below. Join us today, and let's lead the charge for conservative values together. All right, gang, we do have some major movement going on with the latest election forecasting models. Trump's chances of winning the White House now have officially surpassed the 60% mark. And here's the key: on a Democrat's forecast model. It's actually two. It's Nate Silver's forecast model and the Real Clear Politics, the RCP Averages forecast model. So Nate Silver, the poll darling of the Democrats, is giving Trump right now, today, a 61.4% chance of winning the presidency, whereas Kamala has dropped, well, what do you know, back into the 30s, right? Into just 36%. Now, this forecast is actually moving more and more in Trump's direction every single day. So, for example, just a couple of days back, this is what you would have seen had you looked at Nate Silver's forecast model. Trump's chances were at 56%, and Kamala's were 10 points higher. They were at 47%. So Trump has shot up now to over 60%, and Kamala's dropped 10 points to 37%. So Trump keeps going up and up and up, and Kamala keeps going down. And we could see the betting markets responding in a comparable manner here. The betting markets like Polymarket, they're all swinging to Trump. Polymarket's giving Trump now either the lead or tied in every single swing state. Polymarket is giving Trump either the lead or they are tied in every single battleground state, the Big Seven, as they're called. And again, keep in mind, this is 2 weeks after the Democrat convention. That was their high. It's only going downhill from here. Now, keep in mind, Polymarket is not predictive. It is reactive. So this is not a prediction of who's. It's just showing you who has the momentum right now. And that's key, I think, to why these election forecast models are swinging so far over to Trump. Trump just has all the momentum. When all is said and done, this election really does come down to the Big Seven, the 7 swing states. And Trump is absolutely crushing it there. There's not a single, just to set it all up for you, there is not a single swing state that Trump is not viably winning or possibly winning. There's not a single swing state that Trump has been shut out of completely from winning. Whereas Kamala looks like she's been shut out of 3 of them. Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. It looks like there's no chance she's winning. So Trump, again, this is just giving you a sense of the state of the race in the Big Seven. There are no states among the Big Seven that Trump has been shut out of. He has a shot at every single one of them, if not most likely will win most of them, which means game over. Whereas Kamala looks like she's been shut. It looks like Kamala's done in Arizona. It looks like she's done in Georgia. It looks like she's done in North Carolina. Okay, so that's just to give you kind of a big aerial picture there in terms of the contrasting state of each one of the campaigns. Seth Keshel, some of you may know him as Captain Keshel. He just did a county by county breakdown of Wisconsin. He's a Wisconsinite. It's his own backyard. And the upshot is, according to his electoral analysis, county by county, in a worst case scenario, worst case, Trump will carry Wisconsin by about 1.3% of the vote right now if the election were held today. So that's about double the margin he won back in 2016 when he won Wisconsin with 0.7% of the vote. So a worst case scenario based on this county by county analysis is that Trump wins Wisconsin by double the margin he won in 2016. And again, this fits with Rich Barris's thesis and Robert Barnes' thesis that what really their forecast, their prediction, that in the end, Kamala's going to do even worse than Hillary because Kamala's far less liked than Hillary. A best case scenario here in Wisconsin is that Trump runs away with it with a 4-point win. So right now, McLaughlin, who does a lot of internal polling for the Trump team, they have Trump up 2 in Wisconsin. Now, again, keep in mind, Wisconsin is notoriously hard to poll. It is very, very rural. And the polls almost always, did I get it? I'm doing a Mark Cuban. Remember? No. I think he did 16 no's in a row in one interview about Kamala. What a weird guy. But Wisconsin polls always. Did I get that across? Always. Did I mention always underestimate Republican turnout? Always. I think it's because it's very rural. And that rural vote, which is hard to reach, comes out en masse to vote for the Republican. And I think we're going to see that like never before in a couple of months now in Wisconsin. Just the other day, we talked about Michigan. We got two back-to-back polls, one from Epic and the other from WDIV TV. It's a local TV station there. They're both regional polling outlets in Michigan. They're relatively reliable polls, for the exception that they tend to underestimate, like all the polls do, Trump support. So take a look at what you got here. These dropped just the other day, back-to-back Epic and WDIV. They both show Trump in the lead with 1 point, 47 to 40. Oh, Epic has Trump behind Harris, 1, and WDIV has Trump up over Harris by 1. Am I getting that right? No, my eyes are deceiving me. Oh, I'm getting, and I have a hard stop today at 12:45 because I have an eye appointment. Sorry, look at that. My eyes deceive me. They are both up. Trump has that's what I thought. So I had my notes here. Trump is up 1 point in both 47-46, 45-44. Now, what's so significant there is that this lead in reality may be far more significant than that, because both polls consistently underestimated Trump's support in 2020 and 2016 by about 4 or 5 points. So if that's the case, they tend to be accurate in terms of how they assess the overall Democrat turnout in Michigan, but not the Trump turnout. And the Trump turnout tends to be 4 to 5 points more. So if that's the case, Trump may be leading by 5 or 6 points in Michigan. But regardless, the key here is that he's leading. He's leading in Michigan. It does appear to be the case. And we're getting a number of polls that are suggesting that, but most especially these regional polls that understand their counties' makeup and constituencies and the like. But if that's the case, then you have to do some extrapolations. If Trump is winning Michigan, there is no way he loses Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, because Wisconsin and Pennsylvania always vote to the right of Michigan. So if he's winning Michigan, there is no way he is losing Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. He's going to win. So it's going to be a clean sweep. It's a clean sweep of the blue wall. And then when you dive deeper into the poll, you find how bad it is for Kamala going into the stretch of these final 60 days. Michigan voters strongly prefer Trump on the major issues driving this election, right? Sound familiar? Voters trust Trump nearly 20 points when it comes to the southern border. Obviously, Kamala ain't convincing no one about building the wall. He's up 13 on the economy, and he's up 5 on international affairs. Now, that is radically significant because it tells us that this lead that Trump has is just going to continue. It's not just going to hold, it's going to continue to grow. And it's going to get bigger because more and more voters are going to start to align who they're voting for with the trust polling. So who do you trust more to handle these top issues? I trust Trump, so I'm going to go with him. If Trump and Kamala were neck and neck on the top issues polling there, who do you trust? If they were neck and neck, 50-50 as it were, well, then it's anyone's ballgame. The fact that Trump is and has been and promises to continue to be so dominant in the trust polling means that his polls are only going to be going up from here. There's no way voters trust Trump, for example, on the economy, but then turn around and vote for Kamala. Or there's no way voters trust Trump on the southern border and then turn around and vote for Kamala, which means two things. One, as Rich Barris argued, we're going to eventually see the polling return to Biden-level polling. Kamala's glitz and glamour gimmick is going to come crashing down back to Biden-level support. That's first. And then second, if that's the case, again, I'm not being presumptuous here. We cannot be presumptuous. But if that is the case, then obviously this election is over. Trump is going to carry Michigan. If he carries Michigan, he carries Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, wins the Sun Belt, and it's over. And to make matters even worse, and again, I do insert here, we cannot be complacent. We know the Democrats can pull anything out of the hat. We know that. We're not stupid anymore. We know that. I'm just saying this is where the electorate is right now. Okay. But that said, to make matters even worse for Keckles, Kamala, Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy, who polls his best in the battleground states, is now going to be hitting every single one of those states throughout the next 60 days. Check it out.
On the ballot, but I support Donald Trump. Don't vote for him. Don't vote for me. Would you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I already intend to do that. We're planning a Make America Healthy Again tour where we're going to visit almost all of those states. So I will be doing rallies in each of those states over the next 61 days. We want to, if we're going to accomplish the mission that I set out to accomplish when I got into this campaign, to end the censorship, to end the surveillance, to get out of the Ukraine war and unravel the war machine, and the chronic disease epidemic. The only way to do that is to get President Trump in the White House and me into Washington. So we're going to pull out all the stops to make sure that happens.
Are you going to be alongside Donald Trump, essentially campaigning with him in those states?
I may be. I don't, we don't know. We haven't worked out the entire schedule, but certainly I'll probably do rallies with him and with other surrogates for President Trump. We're co-planning these rallies, the Make America Healthy Again rallies and the Drain the Swamp rallies with the Trump campaign. And we expect the Trump campaign to show up at the rallies too. So we're going to, I will be campaigning side by side with the president and with members of his family and with other members of his campaign.
Now, make no mistake, that's the last thing the Democrats want to hear. They're doing everything they can to keep Bobby Kennedy's name on the ballots in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and North Carolina. They're doing everything they possibly can to try to disrupt this alliance. And it's because Bobby Kennedy's particularly popular in swing states. All the polls show he does take votes away from Trump in those heavily rural areas. And so his co-campaigning with Trump over the next 60 days, it's going to absolutely crush it going into the home stretch here. Absolutely awesome stuff. The realignment continues between the populist left and the populist right to take down the establishment once and for all. And you heard him articulate that so perfectly, to dismantle the administrative state and dismantle the war machine and the military industrial complex and the censorship complex. And we need the people to unite, both left and right, to take on not a horizontal enemy, left and right, but a vertical enemy, namely the establishment. We got one last humiliation for the Democrats here, and that's the latest disaster for Special Prosecutor Jack Smith. Wait until you see this. This is just, I got to admit, it is delicious. I shouldn't say that, should I? All right, well, I'll confess afterward, but this is just too good. But first, Gag, with all the uncertainty, all of the insanity surrounding us and around the entire world, there's simply never been a better time to secure your finances than with the timeless value of gold and silver. And so that's why we have as one of our wonderful friends and sponsors the amazing company Goldco, because they're patriots just like us who want to help you and guide you and how to get into precious metals completely tax-free and penalty-free. In fact, if you click on that link below right now, you can get your very own absolutely free gold and silver kits, an amazing free resource that shows you step-by-step how to get into precious metals, even if your money's still in a retirement account like an IRA or a 401k. And just to show you how awesome the Patriots Goldco are, the best part is that you may actually already qualify to get up to $10,000 in free silver. I told you they're the best, so what are you waiting for? Get in on the action by clicking on the link below or going to turleytalkslikesgold.com and get your free gold and silver kit today. All right, we got to talk about the latest complete, total humiliation of freaking Jack Smith, man. The judge on the D.C. case, the January 6th case, Judge Tanya Chutkan, has basically told Jack Smith to go stick it. Now, I'm not sure many of you know, or I'm sure many of you do know, but Jack Smith, the special counsel, he recently filed what's called a superseding indictment against President Trump. A superseding indictment is basically the second one after the first one gets dismissed. It's a new indictment. And this one now is actually one on a diet. It's several pages shorter than the original one, precisely because Smith had to omit so much evidence due to the Supreme Court's presidential immunity ruling. And that omission, as it turns out, basically stripped Smith of any case. Not that he had one prior, but now it's even worse. And many legal analysts had been pointing out that this superseding case, is even more pathetic than the previous ones, even weaker than the previous one, were that even possible. Well, now it looks like the judge in this case in D.C. has had it. Judge Chutkan has put a merciful end to this whole saga. She just ruled that Smith's case will not see the light of day until after the election, which means that it is effectively dead. It's effectively dead from two angles. If Trump wins in November, which is, of course, as we see, looking more and more likely, then the whole case will collapse due to presidential immunity. I mean, it'll be dead. Even if he does not win, if shenanigans conquer, then again, the whole point of the election the whole point of this case was election interference. And so with the election over, the momentum to prosecute Trump will have completely dissipated. Either way, it looks like Chutkan got the memo, okay? Like Alvin Bragg did, right? We talked about this a few weeks back. Alvin Bragg, that Manhattan district attorney, he conceded that the New York court should postpone the sentencing of Trump, which is currently scheduled to occur in just a couple of weeks on September 18th. He's recommending they postpone it till after the election. He admitted that in light of Supreme Court's immunity ruling, much of his evidence that he introduced in the case would in effect be wiped out. And so he agreed. He's recommending that sentencing for Trump be postponed until after the election. And everyone who saw that recognized that letter that he sent out was an admission. Bragg was actually admitting that the lawfare that they used to try to take Trump out was a total and complete failure. I mean, that letter from Bragg to this Manhattan judge was a blatant admission. It was a confession that the weaponized lawfare against Trump has boomeranged back against them. It's an admission that the only thing this campaign of weaponized legalism has accomplished was a massive backlash of sympathy towards Trump. That's what this letter represents. That's what this caving represents. Got nothing to do with law and justice and fairness. That's a total crock, like he would care. It's a full-on retreat, and Chutkan appears to have gotten the memo, as it were. You know, unlike Smith, she recognizes that the powers that be want them to put a lid on this. They want this lawfare to end because they only see it working in Trump's favor. And then, as if things couldn't get worse, you guys probably saw this the other day. Now even Alvin Bragg himself is getting humiliated in a hidden video sting. The Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office chief spokesman is a fellow by the name of Nicholas. I'm not quite Biase. I don't know how to say his name, but he admitted on hidden camera that the entire case against President Trump was politically motivated. Politically motivated. Now, as I understand it, the video is being censored online, I believe, by Google or YouTube. So I'm just going to read. I'm reading from the Steven Crowder, unfortunately, put up a bit of the transcript here. But this guy repeatedly said things like, I think the case is nonsense. I think it's a perversion of justice. I think it's a travesty of justice. It's a mockery of justice. The whole thing is disgusting. That's why Trump is surging in the polls. That's the memo, gang. That's the memo. Stop. You guys got to stop this. This lawfare isn't working. So obviously this, I don't know how many people got to see the video, but obviously it's got legs. At the Manhattan DA's office is talking like this. This is beyond embarrassing for Alvin Bragg and this Judge Merchant in New York. Again, it's yet another key sign that this weaponized legalism it's not working, and it's even being recognized as being a failure in the belly of the beast, even inside the Manhattan DA's office, which again, remember, the Manhattan DA's office originally rejected this case, okay? The Manhattan DA's office originally looked at the potential of this case against President Trump and Stormy Daniels and all that, and they dismissed it as foolhardy and totally illegitimate. Remember, the statute of limitations had run out on the whole thing, for heaven's sakes. It was obviously a political hit job. It had to get resurrected. That's why my namesake, Jonathan Turley, calls it the Frankenstein case. It had to get zapped back to life because it was already dead. And yet the legacy media dutifully lined up and presented the entire thing. They pretended that the entire thing, just like they're doing with Kamala, was actually legitimate. It was legitimate litigation. Yes, this is, tell us more. We're going to bring in our legal expert to tell us. Blah, blah, blah. We really are living in we're living in the best of times and the worst of times. So I keep you sane in insane times. Our country has never seen such corrosive corruption at virtually every systemic level in our public institutions. And we see it. We see it in all the polls. We're going through a horrific process of what's called delegitimation. We talk about it all the time, where trust and confidence in our public institutions has eroded to its lowest levels ever. Gallup has tracked that over the last 20 years, and it's dangerously low levels. I mean, dangerous meaning like Berlin Wall levels. Just look at the state of the Berlin Wall, what happened to the Soviet Union when people no longer trust their public institutions. I mean, our country is absolutely, our leadership, our public institutions have never been, to my memory, this corrupt. And it's just sad to see. But fortunately, corrosion corrodes. Fortunately, rot rots. And our institutions will, come November, either be reformed and renewed for the people, or they'll just eventually implode and we'll have to start again. Either way, there is no future for these left-wing liberal liars. Over to you. Over to you. Let's hear what questions you've got as Josh, our moderator, gathers your questions. As you know, gang, as I point out, our nation is at a tipping point, and we need every patriot on deck. The Courageous Conservatives Club is where real action happens. This isn't just about learning. It's about joining a movement that's ready to stand up and make a difference. So when you join, you'll get access to our powerful tools like the Liberals Indoctrination Vaccination Kit and the Uncensored Conservatives Action Plan Guide. So these resources are designed to help you take the fight to the left, protect your values, and influence the future of our nation. But it's not just about the tools, gang. It's about the community. You'll be joining thousands of like-minded conservatives who are ready to take action together. We're focusing on connecting with the next generation, safeguarding our elections, and standing firm in our beliefs. This movement is gaining momentum, and we want you to be a part of it. Click the link below to join the Courageous Conservatives Club and become a key player in this fight for our future. All right, Josh, what do we got, man? What do we got? Rock dog! Dr. Steve, do you feel that Trump's coattails will bring a few MAGA people across the finish line like Carrie Lake? I do. And that's because we don't vote split ticket anymore. Susan Collins is the one exception up in Maine back in 2020. Voters voted for Biden, but voted for the Republican Susan Collins. But as I understand it, since about 2012, so a good track record of over 10 years, we haven't been doing that. Obama seemed to, for whatever reason, brought an end to that. So we generally don't split tickets. So when we put in whoever we're voting for as president, voters will overwhelmingly vote for that party in the down ticket. So that means that if Trump has some pretty sizable margins in Arizona, in particular, like it looks like he's got, then Carrie Lake should pull this off, no problem. Don't worry about the polls right now. I mean, she'll pull it off. She'll ride those coattails. Same with Moreno in Ohio. John Tester looks like he's going down, the Democrat in Montana. And of course, we have Jim Justice, the pickup in West Virginia. So we may end up with 53, 54 seats when all said and done. We've got 49 now. Two more, the two easy pickups, definitely Montana and West Virginia. Ohio looks like that's definite. That's going to go because Trump's going to win Ohio by 10, 12 points. And I think Carrie Lake is going to be part of that as well. Terry, Dr. Steve, it seems to me that Judge Chutkan is rebelling against the Supreme Court by declaring presidential immunity not to exist without having read the decision. Is she determined to try the case after the election? But before Trump's inauguration, more broadly, can anything stop Trump's inauguration short of successful assassination attempt? No, I'm with you, Terry. No. If he's elected, he will be inaugurated. I don't see it. I mean, I know the Democrats are going to try to pull whatever shenanigans, but there's going to be they will have no legitimacy in whatever they're trying to pull off. The media will have no legitimacy in trying to defend it because they always defend the Democrats. So no, if he wins the election, this case is over. It's over. Okay. Even again, I make the argument even if he didn't win the case or didn't win the election, I think the case is over. And just because the whole rationale for it is just evaporates, which is election interference. Poll at this point, many of the polls favor Trump. It looks like he will be elected for a second term, but I don't trust Democrats with their history of election interference. Are there any reassurances they won't repeat 2020 election? If so, what are they? Okay. The only reassurances there's two that I know. So first and foremost, the real shenanigans when looking back, nearly 4 years later, in retrospect, the real shenanigans were the mail-in ballots. It was the stuffing of the ballots. It was this is based on those who have studied the issue, and they have concluded, just like the Carter Commission warned, that whatever fraud was in 2020, it was happening primarily in those mail-in ballots, in the ballot harvesting and the stuffing of ballots and the like. Again, we're getting even in Connecticut, where my own hometown, I think it was in Bridgeport. So these are Democrat primaries. They were stuffing ballots in the primaries to try to get one Democrat to win over and against another. And they were caught red-handed. So the good news then is that mail-in ballot requests are down dramatically from 2020. We're talking down 90% in Georgia. We're talking down 62% in Pennsylvania. They're down across the board. 2020 is not happening again in terms of because 2020, 70% of all voting was mail-in. So that's, and then even then, keep in mind, Trump came within 40,000 votes of winning, even then. Okay. So that's the first reassurance. And then the second, according to Mike Whatley and Laura Trump, the co-chairs of the RNC, they have an army of over 100,000 poll workers that they're sending all over the country, but primarily in these swing states, because you're not going to steal Texas, you're not going to steal Florida or Mississippi or Alabama or Tennessee. But you could, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Yeah, those you got to keep an eye on it. They're going to have poll watchers watching ballot drop-off boxes. They're going to have poll watchers counting the ballots, and they're going to be overrepresented, and they're going to have lawyers there on premise to make sure no shenanigans are happening. They're already suing, if I recall, Detroit. Detroit had accepted like 200 poll watchers from the Democrats and only like 10, or, it was a minuscule amount from the Republicans. So they're suing. They said, no, you take the 200 we gave you. It's going to be mano a mano. We're going to pair with the Democrats in terms of observers that this is being handled fairly. So I think they're being radically proactive. Scott Pressler's out there registering Republicans in Pennsylvania. Republican registration is up dramatically over the Democrats in Arizona, in Georgia. We're even out registering Democrats in California, for heaven's sakes. It's pretty impressive stuff. And then, of course, especially Pennsylvania. So the requests for mail-in ballots are down again dramatically from an election where Trump came within 40,000 votes of winning. The margin of them being down goes way. We're talking millions, literally millions of votes, millions in Pennsylvania alone. And then Whatley and Trump, Laura Trump, are saying they're going to. They already have it. It's already baked into the cake. They're going to be auditing the vote as it comes in via the mail-in ballots as well as election day. So, and it's hard to do. The last thing darkness wants is light. So if you have people waiting and looking for it, it's hard. It's like, I hate to say it's kind of like, it's like Homeland Security, as long as nobody was looking for it, you can pull off the 9/11. But after that, it's hard. It's very hard to pull it off. I'm not making comparisons. I'm just giving a comparative process. That's all. Thanks, Paul. Vlad the Impaler. When I encounter black pillars, I give him a clip of John Belushi's speech about the Germans bombing Pearl Harbor. Even if the Dems win in November, the battle will just take on another form. It's not over until we decide it's over. Life is frequently a case of one step forward and two steps back. Amen. Amen, Vlad. I couldn't agree with you more. And I will do a video. I'll actually probably do a couple of videos. What happens if Trump loses? We have to think about that. Eisenhower, right? He had two, if I recall, he had, I thought it was Eisenhower. I might be wrong, but he had two letters in his pocket on D-Day, a letter sent to the president, informing him we won, and a letter sending him, saying it was a failure. The mission failed. So yeah, we have to make sure we are ready if Cackles Kamala wins. Now, again, keep in mind, she may have won a battle there, but I mean, we talk about the process of delegitimization is real, and nations and empires can fall when delegitimation has reached critical mass. Just look at the state of the Berlin Wall. So she can win, but even just with all of the shenanigans the Democrats have already pulled, particularly with the lawfare and switching out their candidate halfway through and replacing him with somebody who never got a single vote from anyone during a primary. I mean, in many ways, were they to win, the legitimacy of the win has already been tainted. And that will not bode well for them trying to run the country. Thank you, Vlad. Awesome. Miss C, do you think Trump will be able to squelch the Green New Deal as he says he plans to? We've been sincere on following through with that. Absolutely. The drill baby drill itself will destroy it. Drill baby drill, fracking. He wants to unleash that. He knows energy independence is absolutely essential to national sovereignty. The moment our energy is dependent on other nations, we are subservient to those nations in a very real way. They can cripple us if they want to. If they do an energy embargo on us, we're cooked. So he knows energy independence is absolutely the sine qua non, the number one indispensable thing for our national sovereignty. So he sees energy independence as every bit as important as closing the southern border. Richard, Dr. Steve, what do you make of the Chinese spy in Holtz's office? I've seen the reports, but I haven't really caught up on the details of it. I mean, but when I read the reports and I see there's a female spy, Chinese spy, in a Democrat's office, I just chuckle and say, well, that's just par for the course. We don't need spies. We got Democrats, I mean, it's just par for the course. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to be everywhere. It's a big country with a very, very strong surveillance apparatus, and very aggressive and very well funded. So it's going to be everywhere. Franz, in a recent campaign speech, Trump claimed that Kamala ruins everything she touches. Thank you for sanitizing that for us, Franz. I know what he said. Was that a reference? And I thought you were sanitizing. Was that a reference to ED or an attempt to hyper normalize the word ruin? Oh, Franz, you're hilarious. The weekend humor has already begun. Very, very funny. I don't know, but I think he's right. She is the epitome of wokeness, and everything wokeness touches turns to dung, and therefore, if she's the epitome of wokeness, therefore. But I will leave it at that. Tim, what do you make of Alan Lichtman's prediction that Kamala will win the election? He's predicted last 9 out of 10. Yeah, but the last 9, well, he didn't do 2000. He blew 2000. I don't know. I just don't think the last elections were that hard to predict. I really do. I'll give him 2016. He stuck with 2016. I don't know if he was following some pollsters. I think the 13 keys are absurd, to be honest with you. Incumbency is everybody knows incumbency is a very, very strong key. Because 9 times out of 10 the incumbent wins, but Kamala is an incumbent. Just ask Al Gore how hard it is for an incumbent vice president to win, right? So he's not an incumbent. Trump is more of an incumbent than Kamala is. That's the problem I have with it. He actually gives one of his keys on the economy to Harris. That's insane to me. That's nuts. Trump, especially when you look at Trump's polls that he has with the economy, every single one, he clobbers her with the economy. And now we're getting word that there's a recession. CNBC is reporting. That's what I heard right before I got on here. That CNBC is reporting we are in recession territory, and no incumbent, either president or vice president, no incumbent administration has won re-election successfully if they're in the midst of some kind of recession. So I just seems to me it's a very subjective model. He's a left-wing loon. Now again, left-wing loons could be right. Yeah, their eccentricities might give them, they may be more in touch with parts of reality, but he's a loon, and he's selling a book. He was, you can look at his, I forget what date it was that Biden dropped out. It was a Sunday. So what was it? It was July something. But if you go to his Twitter feed and you look at a video he tweeted out that morning, he said, I just got word that from the Biden's people, he's staying in the race, and he's staying in the race because of the 13 keys. They know they're going to win. He literally was saying, if they switched out Biden for Kamala, they are going to destroy their chances of winning the election. He was the biggest cheerleader for Biden staying in the election. And then they switched her out, and literally, it was like what I talked about at the beginning of my live stream here. It was like he had a born again experience. Oh, come on, she could win. She can win. It was just the most. It was beyond. I mean, it was obviously not. It was not believable when all is said and done. So, I just don't put a lot of trust in it. The 2000 election was not hard to predict. 92 wasn't hard to predict. 96 wasn't hard to predict. 2000 wasn't hard to predict. 2004. I mean, 2000. I was surprised Gore got that close. Let's put it that way. The surprise was that Gore got that close. 2004 was relatively easy to predict. I mean, don't even get me started on 2008 and 2012, for heaven's sakes. I mean, and then 2016, I was predicting Trump was going to win. So I guess on Alan Lichtman's model, I'd be almost as Nostradamus-y, I guess. And then 2020, if he had any insights into the shenanigans that were going on, then that would have been easy there. So I just don't put a lot of put a lot of stock in it. It just seems to be a lot of hocus pocus to me because it just seems so subjective in the end. So I don't put a lot of in the keys. Mary, do you think Republicans are successful in putting the SAVE Act in the spending bill? They better be. They should be. Again, if they're not, it's just another reason. It's just another justification for why they're polling so far behind Trump right now. They're polling significantly behind, 6-7 points on the generic ballot behind Trump. So Trump support is way up here, but Republican support is down here. They should be at least in parity with each other. But it's because Mitch McConnell and Mike Johnson are the face of the Republican Party, and they're disasters. They're absolute establishment disaster, pro-Ukraine, disasters. So, Old Polar, could you imagine what could be done if we stop making Putin a demon and make him an ally? I agree with you, Old Polar. And I haven't taken a dime. I promise I haven't taken a dime. I agree with you. I think it's absolutely absurd what we're doing. But this is what the military-industrial complex wants. This is what the globalist powers that be at the WEF want. This is what Brussels wants. They want they want confrontation with Russia because Russia represents the rising of a new civilizationalist religious world, and the globalists find that world, as they should, to be a threat to their power and their affluence. So I'm with you. Nowhere, Texas, NT, Dr. Steve, have you recognized the parallel between 2016 and 2024 and the two Democrat opponents are both Jezebels? Trump is an archetype of King Jehu or Cyrus. You are biblically literate, so you know about King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, of course. Yes, things did not turn out too well for either one of them. That's right. One got mauled, if I recall, by a bear or by dogs. I'm forgetting. So yes, yeah, I'm definitely seeing a lot, and then of course the latest Russian interference hoax, which is just a hoax. I mean, how anyone could take that? We did a quick video on it. How anyone could take this thing seriously is beyond me. But yeah, I do. If anything, it's the parallel breaks down in that I think Kamala's even less popular than Hillary. I think Hillary had a chance because she had a chance in a lot of those counties that had voted Obama twice, that voted Democrat in every single election until 2016 because they're white working class counties, blue collar counties that had always just traditionally voted Democrat. And then all of a sudden Trump is holding rallies in their county like he's doing now in Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Minnesota. And they're so excited about having this guy talking about trade, talking about taking on China, talking about bringing manufacturing industry back to our heartland again, revitalize the Rust Belts in a way that secures again. The Rust Belts are the key to our national sovereignty. Our manufacturing and energy base is key to our national sovereignty. The middle class, working class are the key to the not billionaire, bougie types, not bureaucrats. No, it's the working class. They're key to national sovereignty. Without them, we're not sovereign. And they flipped out and they flipped over to Trump. They defected from the Democrats, went over to Trump. A couple went back a little bit in 2020 and have now said mea culpa, and they're coming back in mass with Trump. So I think Hillary even had a better chance in those counties because they had never flipped Republican before. Now that they flipped Republican on multiple elections since 2016, 2018, 2020, 2022, again, not as red as they were in 2016, but are now in the polling seem to be even redder, even deeper red. Kamala's having even a harder time. She's having a harder time than Hillary just in terms of the electoral map. And then she's having a harder time just because she's so less liked. She's just so bad. And the more people find out about her, the less they like her. That's been the pattern of her entire political career. The more people find out about her, the less they like her. The more people hear her, the less they want to. That's just an objective fact. Joan, Dr. Steve, do you think the left will shut up for a while about the Electoral College and using only the popular vote if Trump gets both? Oh, yeah. Now, again, it's very interesting you ask that question, because I'm doing a video that's addressing this at one level. As long as our major cosmopolitan centers are as far left wing as they are, it is going to be hard for the Republican to win the popular vote. And that's because it's just hard to compete against LA and Chicago and New York, and Atlanta, and on and on. So as long as the major metro areas are voting overwhelmingly Democrat, it's going to be hard for the Republican to win the popular vote. They're sure as heck going to win the Electoral College. They're going to knock down the blue wall every single election cycle if Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania continue to move right with the defection of the working class, both white and non-white working class, and their populations tend to be inordinately working classes over and against other the population in general. That said, cities are turning right. It's very, very fascinating. There have been a number of studies on how the amount of the vote that the left gets in cities has been dissipating since 2008. So Obama got the biggest amount that we saw, like in boroughs like in Manhattan and Brooklyn and Queens and so forth. But ever since 2008, that percentage of the vote that the left gets in our municipalities has been shrinking. And it's not just here, it's happening in Europe as well. And there's a number of reasons for that. And I'm doing a video, planning on doing it next week on that. So keep an eye out for that. I'll tease you with that. So that's good. That's good. Because then that will bring the popular vote more in alignment with the sentiments of the Electoral College. But until then, I think it's going to be, if Trump wins both, yeah, they'll shut up about it. They'll shut up about it until they win the popular vote again, because of how LA and New York and Chicago voted versus how rural areas overwhelmingly vote in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona, Nevada, but did not get, and won their states, but did not reach the number levels of the municipalities. Rotcore. Dr. Turley, if you could turn Turley Talks into a major news network on the same level as CNN, would you? What would you call it? TTNN, Turley Talks News Network, the most tasteful name in news. I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, it's funny you asked that. R-O-T. I don't know. Yeah, Rotcore, R-O-T core. It's funny you asked that, because I do think about that. I do think there is a niche for the rising civilizationalist world where I would require sort of a 24/7 or a much, much larger staff to cover. Can't just be me making a few videos a day, commenting on some of the more significant events. But the world, what I love and what I get so much encouragement from you guys when I meet you personally. And by the way, keep an eye out for Monday night's live stream, because I got a really cool announcement there. But what I really enjoy is how much you tell me how much you enjoy, or much you like me reporting on how we're winning all over the world. It's not just what's happening here in the United States in the MAGA movement. There is, in a very real way, a mega movement going on. Make Earth great again. And the world is returning to its cultures, its customs, traditions, most particularly its religious traditions. Remember, even China today considers itself Confucian. It will not call itself communist. It will call itself more Confucian. All the members of the Politburo have to read the Analects by Confucius. They have to study that. The Chinese government is pouring tremendous amount of money into Confucian academies. So what you have to understand is the world really is moving in the direction of religion, nationalism, civilizationalism all over. There is one force standing in the way of that, and that is DC and Brussels. And you could put Davos in there too. There's sort of a triangular demon in there. DC, Davos, and Brussels. They're collectively the one force, the globalist, neo-feudalist force that's trying to stand in the way of the reclamation of our religious traditions and our civilizational flourishing. And so, unfortunately, we're both ground central for this civilizational renewal in the Red State renewal, Make America Great movement renewal, while at the same time, we're also the greatest force for its frustration. And so I would love to have a channel that focuses on that holistically in a way that goes far beyond what I can do. I'd love to bring in a lot more crypto and gold, because these are financing the new civilizationalist world outside the Bretton Woods system. And the Bretton Woods system is all about control, right? Debanking and everything like that. It's not about money you have. It's about who controls the money and the free flow of that money. And just the way they stifle free speech, they are stifling, as we saw with the Freedom Convoy. They can shut you out of your bank. They can shut you out of your savings accounts and the like. So crypto and gold are the key financing ways of seeing this new civilizationalist world rising that will leave this Bretton Woods kind of globalist system in the dust. So if I had a channel, I think I would focus on all those sort of things. And I do like that TTNN, maybe T2N2. I don't know. I have to have some play with that a little bit. That'd be cool. Kevin, Dr. Steve, we are seeing a number of Dems leaving the party. Do you think that is just a stealth way for them to ingratiate themselves with Trump and survive? Liars lie, more rhinos. Good question, Kevin. That is a concern. But I think they've walked the talk in that they recognize that the political divide today is not horizontal. It's not left versus right. It is vertical. Even Cenk Uygur, who I'd love to chat with sometime, and I mean chat, not argue, not. I'm not that kind of guy. I don't like that kind of stuff. Even Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks has been saying things very interesting of late, where he's recognizing, wait a minute, maybe this part, and I think, yes, he does recognize that this party that I've been supporting all this time really doesn't give a rip about me or these issues. They just use the issues as wedge issues to keep us divided so that they are able to maintain power and affluence. It's all really ultimately about their power and affluence, not about us. The issues don't really matter. Now they do, but they don't matter to the powers that be. And so what we have to do is we have to get rid of the powers that be. We have to dismantle the administrative state, bring down the deep state, the establishment, as it's called, once and for all. And then once we've done that, we can have a wonderful time debating policy. We have a wonderful time debating left-wing populist ideas versus right-wing populist ideas. But until then, let's unite together. Exactly what Robert Kane's talking about. Let's unite together around national sovereignty and making America healthy again. So our health sovereignty, our national sovereignty, right? Food freedom, financial freedom, and the like. Let's focus on those things and take down the deep state that is the greatest threat to those things. And then we can get into all the issues that divide us. They'll inevitably come back. But maybe we'll have a goodwill enough to really reach a consensus. And that's ultimately, because the biggest enemy to democracy is what's called radical perspectivalism. And it's a fancy schmancy term that refers to the idea of it's my way or the highway. It's wokeness. There is no allowance of dissent. Whereas democracy is based on compromise. That there, you take a Venn diagram, right? Because Kamala likes Venn diagrams. Remember, she talked about Venn. Oh, it's so funny. I love the two circles and then they meet in the middle. Oh gosh, yeah. So it's a democracy operates by a Venn diagram. So we try to find consensus, and then you do actually have the studies of on consensus reaching, and finding some way of bringing two opposite sides together and where they overlap, and then that provides your legislation, and then it tends to pass overwhelmingly, and everybody's happy, more or less. So anyway, that's where I would go with it. Think of the divide as vertical, not horizontal. Let's take the establishment out, and then once it's taken out, then we'll have a great time debating our differences. Tyler, Dr. C, do you think that the Trump RFK union could potentially be a big game changer in this election and have a unification aspect which really shines in November? Absolutely, Tyler. Absolutely. I talked a lot about that last week. So when they unified 2 weeks ago today, all throughout the last week, I've been analyzing. So Trump is getting a bump immediately, 2 to 3 point bump, particularly in the swing states. It's what's frustrating Kamala big time. They want her to push way beyond 5, 6, 7 points in swing states. Ain't happening because she's not getting that vote. And again, what it does is it aligns our politics around a vertical divide. The people are no longer divided along horizontal lines, left versus right, conservative versus liberal, Republican versus Democrat. Now we combine together as a single force, and we put all of our animus, all of our resentment now vertically to the permanent political class, and we bring that down. That's how you bring down the Soviet Union. When you were in the Soviet Union, you didn't care what your fellow fighter, as it were, thought about the issues. You were all trying to get rid of this evil. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to literally exorcise our nation of this evil that has infiltrated our public institutions. And it starts with taking down the center, which is the deep state. And it's just amazing because no one wants to do that more than RFK. I can only answer about one more because I've got a hard stop here. What do we got, guys? See, we got 5 more. Patriot Jules. Of course, I got to answer Patriot Jules. Best show ever. Well, thank you, Patriot Jules. Thank you. If Trump wins, what happens? Stay OC and be poppin', buddy. Are they just censored? What about Hillary? Does she just seethe back into her culture? Oh, no. They'll still be hanging out at CNN and MSNBC and ABC, and they'll try to do what they can to muster some kind of pushback against this political realignment. But if Trump wins with the kind of political realignment that we're hoping for, I think all bets are off. I don't think they're going to be able to do much in the end. We'll see. Anything can happen, but I think the momentum will be on our side. And if we start dismantling this deep state, there's not a lot that they can do, especially, again, that we have both the right and the left united. That's what's so exciting. And that's it. All right, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. I love you guys so much. Take care. Hug your loved ones. And I hope to see you on Monday. And remember, live stream Monday night. Be there. I got a really cool announcement you're going to love. God bless, gang.